Morning, I'm Ken Waddell from the Neepawa Banner, Neepawa Press, and mywestman.ca. I have with me Owen Devereux, who is our sports writer and newsman, and this week the editor, because you'll see there's just two of us. Our editor, Kate Jackman Atkinson, is in Newfoundland enjoying some of the wonderful sights and sounds of the great East Coast. So we look forward to having her back next week, but
yes, very much so, because it turns out she does a lot of work around the office.
Apparently.
Her job is hard.
Apparently she does. Well, we got the paper done on time yesterday, and I told the staff we could just phone her up and tell her to stay in Newfoundland. That'll be fine.
Don't do it, Kate. Come back.
They want Kate back. Anyway, we all want Kate back. Anyway, so she'll probably see this on the internet before she gets home, so she'll feel loved and wanted to come back to us. But anyway, this week has been jam-packed with lots of newsworthy events. Owen, you watched the and were one of the people on the sidewalk watching the hundreds of people go by in the Unity Walk. Did you also eat supper? Did they feed you too?
Oh, that's right. You bring that up, the Unity Walk. We had so many different events going on, Ken, and I can say honestly, it was a privilege to be able to cover this one. As you said, the Unity Walk, it was also a potluck dinner, and it was all part of a lot of festivities that were going on over the weekend. It was put together to coincide with Jam Fest, which happened on Saturday, and which we'll be talking about a little bit later on. But this turned into so much more. It became a rallying point for the community. What it was, for people who weren't there, was a group of individuals, Rochelle Unica, Rain Pryor, Amanda Nightingale, and Bernadette Tripon. They decided they wanted to put this together, a Unity Walk, because of what happened during the Canada Day long weekend with the graffiti. They wanted to show everyone that this is a community united. This is a community that comes together in the face of adversity. And that's exactly what the Unity Walk was. It was people going from the courthouse, walking down to the Arts Forward building, just showing signs of support. They thought it was going to be, a nice, modest little walk, a few, maybe 100 people. It turned out around an estimated 600 people came out waving all different flags, banners, showing signs, making up signs of appreciation for the diversity and culture that Neepawa provides this country. It was really something amazing. I got to admit as well, myself, going into it, I didn't expect that type of number. Afterwards, I spoke with Rochelle about it, and she honestly didn't expect that number as well. All of them were just dumbfounded and very emotional about what this was. It showed that the community comes together in times of need. We have some pictures in the Neepawa Press and in the Neepawa Banner. There's a full write-up that's in this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner. It's very intriguing, and like I said, I found it a privilege to be able to be a part of it.
And some of that information, of course, will be on mywestman.ca and on our Facebook as well, right?
That's right. If you're not within our readership area, you can check it out online at mywestman.ca.
I know we joined into the parade, my wife and I. I had a very sore knee that day, so I wasn't about to walk it. Mm-hmm. But we've had the banner vehicle with all our signage and the Canadian flag, and we're participating in that and brought up the kind of a rear guard on the parade. Once we were at the Arts Forward site, it was kind of interesting because I think all four of the ladies who were instrumental in putting us together all shed a tear or two when it was over of gratitude and relief.
Yep.
It was very, very well received. We went through, like I asked you earlier, did you get fed or did you go through the line? It was a long line.
It was a long line. I didn't get fed, but I had a chance to go up there and see. They had 3 full roast pigs, which was amazing to see. Fortunately, it looks like I believe it was the co-op. They donated their giant grills to be able to do up some of the barbecue. It was a potluck, so everybody brought treats, whether it was some type of salad, whether it was a dessert. There were a lot of desserts there, a variety you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
It was such a feeling of togetherness. It really, and it lasted into the night. Entertainment, the whole 9 yards.
It was interesting because there was several Filipino ladies serving the food, and came along, and there's this big casserole of pierogies there. And I laughed, and I said to him, "Those aren't Filipino." She says, "No, those are Ukrainian." And The fact that she knew exactly what they were, and there was every kind of food going there. My wife brought a dessert for this time of year, a pretty traditional dessert, a Saskatoon pudding. It was good. Of course, you always have to eat your wife's dessert at these things, or else you're in trouble when you get back home. Anyway, there was a lot to choose from there. So Jam Fest was that weekend, and it was a bit of an expansion, I guess, on previous years. And as we've explained in the news media, double meaning there, Jam Fest, because there's jam there, many, many varieties of homemade jam, and also their music jam session all day long there. And you took in that as well. What was your reaction to that whole deal? That's
right, Ken. On July 22nd, they had Jam Fest going on there. It's getting bigger and better as the years progress. As you said, it's double meaning. They had a jam tasting competition, but they also had, as you said, jam sessions. A number of musicians. I was there and I saw about 5 or 6 different individuals go up there. The amount of talent in and around this region is just amazing.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Same thing with the jam tasting. This year they had 20 different jams. That's up, I believe it's about 4 or 5 more jams than they had last year, and all over. And there was actually a little bit of intrigue this year, because after the first voting, it was a public vote, there was a tie between these 2 jams.
They were all jammed up.
Yes, they were literally jammed up. So they had to go to a sudden death tasting.
Oh, hopefully nobody died from the tasting.
No, they were delicious. So,
dear. Were you the final judge?
I wasn't, because I knew of one of the 2 people I know, and it wouldn't have been fair for me to vote. It was between Leanne Gertz, who brought in a wonderful bumbleberry jam, and Jacqueline Rose, who had a pina colada jam. There was no alcohol in it, though. Although from what I heard, if there was a little bit of alcohol in it, she would have won for sure. But it turned out Leanne won the tiebreaker with her bumbleberry jam. They were both so good. All of them were so good. There wasn't a bad jam in the batch. It was a lot of fun.
Well, it's like pie. There's no such thing as bad pie. There's just some are better than others. That's my attitude. There was pies there too, because they had the farmers market, and also there were some vendors there. Talked to one of the organizers there, and we probably still have somewhere hidden away in our Lily Festival files. There was close to 50 vendors when the Lily Festival was on.
Right.
And if there was a good crowd, and I know a lot of them would still come back, I think there's a lot more can be done with the kind of the merchants market thing, but it's we had a waiting list back in the day too, so maybe that'll get revisited someday. That's okay.
What's nice is when I had the opportunity to speak with Rain Pryor, who's running Arts Forward, she said these are incremental steps. Year over year, it's getting a little bit bigger. They're coming up with a few different ideas, so it's nice to see that they're not sort of resting on their laurels, that they're thinking of bigger and better ways.
Yeah, to their credit, for sure. A little more, I don't know, not mundane, I guess isn't the right word, but we heard the sirens the other day and got a picture, and I guess there's one less truck in the area now as a result of the fire on last week.
Kind of interesting. A little earlier this week, as some people might not be aware who aren't from Neepawa, we have the big sirens for the emergency services. The sirens went off everywhere you could hear them, so fire trucks and everything rushed out. One of our workers at the Neepawa Banner, I actually rushed out as well to get some pictures, and for good reason. There turned out that there was a semi-truck just west of Neepawa on the Yellowhead, in between, about 3 or 4 miles away from Neepawa, I believe, that ended up catching fire.
Just a truck. There was no trailer involved, I understand.
Oh, yes, yeah. It was unexpected, obviously. You wouldn't think just a spontaneous sort of eruption of flames while you're driving, but it can happen from time to time. We ended up getting a few pictures. Our reporter on the scene, Diane Warner, went out there, put in a tremendous ended up getting slightly injured. You might be getting a call from workers' comp there. So, a slight injury from that. Hopefully she's getting better, though, from the sounds of it.
We'll tell her, rub some dirt in it and suck it up. That won't work, eh?
Well, she hurt her knee, but telling her to walk it off, that might be counterproductive.
I felt pretty bad about that.
Yeah. But there are some pictures online at mywestman.ca, and there's a picture in this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner where you can see the firefighters doing some work, putting out the fire. It's you got to remember, these are all volunteer individuals, so they're putting all that time and effort in for the best efforts of the community. So for them to do something like that, you got to give them a shout out.
Well, for sure, for sure. We have columns this week. I ended up being really, really busy, and then we had on Tuesday morning, I got called down to the building we're recording in today, the former Neepawa Press building, because the hydro pole burnt off right over the time that I would normally be writing my column. So I thought, well, I'm going to do something different here. We got a different column in my spot this week, and there's a very good-looking young girl there, a young lady who wrote the column. Her name is Tara Konhofen, and I didn't bother mentioning in the paper, but she is our granddaughter, and she has picked up a bit of a writing career, and so we've run her column in place of mine. It's probably only the second or third time in 28 years that my name and ugly picture hasn't appeared on that page 4, but we've replaced her with something a whole lot better looking than me, trust me.
And of course it has to be during the week where I'm running everything, as if I didn't have enough to worry about. Now I'm getting stressed. But it turned out all right. It was a very good column, an intriguing column. It should definitely take a few moments to read through it, a new perspective.
Yeah, she has a good perspective on life, but she also has her struggles like everybody else, and she's very open about putting it out there. So anyway, but tell us about Kate's column. She's interesting. She's away right now. I think as of speaking here today, she's at one of the top tourist attractions. I believe it's called L'Anse aux Meadows in the Viking site in Newfoundland today. And she's talking about tourism and Neepawa and flowers and cemeteries. And what are your thoughts on that? What are you gathering from that whole discussion?
It's very interesting, Ken, because during the last episode of Story Behind the Story, we all three of us talked about this a little bit, about what is Neepawa, what is the attraction, the fact that Neepawa feels like it's starting to turn into a drive-through town in which people drive through, fuel up, and then move on to their real destination. What's the attraction of our community right now? We used to have the Lily Festival. Kate does a very intriguing perspective on what the attraction is. That's the title of the column. What's the attraction? What is our gimmick? We need something that's going to attract people in here. We have a few things that are of interest. There was a cemetery tour that recently went on. Pictures of that can also be seen in this week's edition of the Neepawa Press. But in terms of that, what is it? What makes Neepawa special, and what makes people who aren't from this community want to come here, want to spend time here, more importantly, spend money? So she delves into a few different avenues on that.
Yeah, it's a big question because from her analysis and the analysis that you did on the town spending, it costs a pile of money to keep the cemetery in the manner to which we've become accustomed. And I think this year they're spending 3 times or so on the cemetery what the town is spending on roads, and so that's got to be concerning. I think in more blunt terms, the town, and I'm not blaming the council or anybody on this, I mean, I've been there, done that, but as a community, as a town, we spend way more on the cemetery than we do on recreation. So we're spending more money on, dare I put too blunt a point on it, we're spending more money on dead people than we are on live people.
Well, again, it comes down to what's the point? If I remember correctly, around $245,000, $255,000 on the cemetery. When you compare that, and Kate does a very good job of breaking down these numbers, and if I get the numbers incorrect off the top of my head, I'll apologize to Kate. How you doing out there? I believe it's the road repairs were around $87,000 or $90,000. As you said, we're spending much more money on the departed than we are the ones that are literally driving and walking the streets and sidewalks of Neepawa.
Now, earlier this week, I was going to fuel up a vehicle or something, and it was early in the morning, and all of a sudden, whizzing by, one after another, a whole bunch of bikers, cyclists, I guess. I was going to say that you met an old biker, but I guess you met you met an old cyclist. Tell us about your interaction. What was his name? Jim Beeshold? Is that the right name?
That's right. A very interesting human interest story, and it's for a good cause as well. Jim Beeshold, intriguing man, 81-year-old from San Diego, a suburb of San Diego, California, is up in Canada right now, and he is part of a group of individuals, about 53 individuals, who are biking from coast to coast for the Sea2Sea initiative. Sea2Sea is a charity fundraiser. It's been running for about 12 years already. It's done cross-country tours in Canada and in the United States. This time out, they're doing it from Canada, from BC all the way to Halifax, looking to raise $1.5 million to aid in the combating poverty. Jim's actually done this once before. He did the full U.S. tour. If I remember correctly, it was from Seattle, Washington to New York City. And that was a great distance. That was over 35 or 3,600 miles. And this one he's doing right now, it's even longer. Jim did that initial one when he was just 72 years old. And now he's a spry 81, and he's doing it as well. And he's doing it for all the right reasons. He got involved with the Sea2Sea initiative. He saw what they did over the past 12, 13 years. They've raised over $5.5 million to help combat poverty on a global scale. Not just here in Canada, not just the United States, but all over the world. There's several organizations they donate to that do some wonderful things with that. And they're looking to do it and do this in a big way. He was one of 53. He was the oldest of them. There was a 12-year-old as well, youngest. All shapes and sizes, all coming together. It was really interesting. We have that story in this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner. If you can't get the Neepawa Banner, check it out online at mywestman.ca. Really interesting read.
A number of years ago, it's probably 10 years ago, my youngest son went on that same trek across Canada. They took 10 weeks, and the thing that we remember quite well from that is that they were 4 weeks going through Ontario. That's how big Ontario is. That's how wide it is. It took 40% of their pedaling time across Canada to cross Ontario. It's a massive piece of land.
I think they took that into account, Ken, because an interesting thing, they're actually going to be taking a shortcut through Wisconsin and Michigan.
Oh,
because
that's interesting.
Considering the roads of Northern Ontario, that's probably a great idea for them to do that, because the highways of the U.S. are much nicer than they are in Northern Ontario, so they're going to have a much easier time about it.
Now, we were talking a few minutes ago about roads, and the province came through with a bit of money for several communities, not the least of which was Neepawa. And what were your thoughts on that whole announcement?
It was interesting. A little earlier this week, the provincial government announced details on its municipal road improvement program. This is a program that takes money and it puts it into the communities for some road work that desperately needs to be done. There were several, I would say about 40, 50 different communities that were getting all different amounts of money for different pieces of work that needed to be done. Neepawa ended up getting $50,000. They're going to be able to pave Kellington Avenue with that money. It's a gravel right now, but with a developing community like Neepawa, they got to start thinking for the future. So this is part of that. For Kellington, that's great. Maybe we could have used a little bit more. Who's to say? But it is what it is, and it's good to see there's going to be some money coming into the community.
Well, I was surprised at that choice of street. I don't know, maybe it just fit the amount of grant money that was available from the province, but Kellington, it doesn't go really anywhere. It's not a dead-end street, because it ends on Railway, which is a very little traveled gravel road. And it is gravel right now, and it's about, I think, 11, maybe 12 residences on Kellington, so it's not going to be of benefit to a huge number of people. I'm certainly the people that live in Kellington will enjoy their new road. I doubt if they're going to put in curb and gutter, because there's no curb and gutter there now, but
Right.
maybe they will, I don't know.
What's a little disappointing about that as well, Ken, and I'm not going to second guess. Actually, no, I am going to second guess
Oh, go ahead,
on
second
this.
guess, second
I don't know what the process was on this, but Neepawa ends up getting $50,000 for one road. Meanwhile, we're going to put up a list on mywestman.ca of some of the notable regional communities that are getting money as well. There are several. Gladstone, Carberry is getting a little bit more money than we are. The RM of Westlake Gladstone had about 4 or 5 different roads where it was getting money for, and much more money. I don't know whether it was the community leaders who were talking to the province about this. I don't know whether it was the province itself who made the final decisions. But I gotta wonder, how come, I'm not saying we're getting shortchanged, but it feels like there was a bigger need in Neepawa.
Well, whether it's fair to say it or not, I mean, one of the cabinet ministers lives in Gladstone, and God bless her. I mean, she's pulling for her community, and if there is any way that the cabinet ministers can direct funds, I'm certain that she would be sympathetic to that. I noticed that the Minister of Health's constituency got over $600,000.
Yep. And again, I don't want to insinuate that there's some backdoor dealing on this. There are other communities that are nowhere within her constituency that are getting large amounts of money as well. This is a province-wide initiative.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So no, it's a case of maybe the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Hard to say. I've never been involved in that level of, even when I was mayor. I mean, we certainly didn't have a whole lot of say in these things. You got the announcement, and you were thankful for what you could get, and moved on.
Hey, I'll never say no to $50,000.
No. Now, speaking of Gladstone, we have a center spread in the banner this week for the fair. It's coming up on August 10th and 13th, and it looks like a big event there.
Oh yeah, every year they have on the fair. We've covered it in previous years. This year we've done a complete center spread. Diane Warner did a lot of work, a lot of effort to make that really just pop off the page as it does. And of course, a lot of sponsors from the area come together and support the fair. It is a lot of fun. In this week's Neepawa banner, you're going to see a few pictures from previous years. They got the rodeo that goes on, a lot of interesting action shots, a few shots of the parade. It looks like it's a whole lot of fun.
Now, you've got me stumped here. You made up our list here today, and this item number 7, Family Discovers Neepawa Hidden History. I missed something there. What's going on?
Well, no, it was very intriguing. Actually, it was one of our new reporters who ended up covering that story and going through. Akira McCormick, I haven't learned how to pronounce her full name yet. Adina, yes.
Yeah. I think.
It was a...
I'll hear about it if it's wrong.
Mike and Linda Backlund, they were moving out of their home in Neepawa. They drew in the final check, make sure
I
they
remember
got
a little
everything.
bit about that. Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
And they found a little bit of, again, as I said in the headline, Neepawa's hidden history. Hidden because it was in a little crawl space there. They didn't even realize that these pictures were in that space. And it was really interesting to see some of the...
well, they weren't pictures even. They were negatives. Glass negatives is what
Yes, yeah, you're right.
I've only seen a glass negative in my life once, and I've been in the auction business forever.
I've never seen one ever, no.
Wow. Okay.
It was amazing to see the whole process of how it used to be done. And when they were processed, the amount of detail that was in there was... You could really see the history.
Well, you've got one there. Just show it on camera.
Well, I'm not sure how well it'll translate.
But but look at this. Like, I mean,
once again,
from the First World War. You know, there's a picture of soldiers marching down the street in Neepawa there, and I don't know. I think there's several dozen of these. Norma Forsman, I think. I got. My memory's kicking in now. She was able to scan them and print them, so that we're able to put them into the paper. That's fascinating.
And I believe donated to the museum now, so people are going to have an opportunity to go down to the Beautiful Plains Museum. Always great to go down there and see some of the heritage that Neepawan area provides. A little bit of extra that's going to be down there from now on.
You were flashing another picture around there and you didn't show anybody. That old guy. Well, not so old. Turn back a page. No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Another one.
What?
These guys embarrassed me greatly this week. Look at this. Look at this. From 1987, for crying out loud.
We're changing things up this week. We're having visuals added now, so
This picture
as you
here,
can see.
look at that.
See?
That's me 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I look like Rasputin, the mad monk of Russia. And anyway,
I would just like to add this because I think it's hilarious as well. All right, just very quickly, if you will. As you can see, this is a picture of Ken, and this is me. This picture of Ken is 4 years younger than I am right now. So it's amazing how a beard changes a person.
There you go.
Yeah.
Personal note on that picture is that back in the day when I had a full beard, a black full beard, my youngest son used to really roast me about it. He said, "Dad, you got to trim down your beard. You got to trim it down here. Get it trimmed down." And of course, the whole idea of having a beard is you don't have to shave, right? Save time. And now, of course, he looks just like that. His beard is right up to his eyes.
Beards are cool.
Yeah, anyway, and so I remind him now. Remember when you wanted me to shave my beard? Yeah. Well, I said, look in the mirror. You need to shave your beard down a little bit. Anyway, he doesn't. I didn't listen to him. He doesn't listen to me. Anyway, we're getting close to the end of our time here, but you mentioned a little bit when you talk about a walk through history. I presume you're talking there about the cemetery walk, and is that the one?
That is correct. The cemetery tour.
Talk about that a little bit. That was a pretty fascinating little thing that they did there.
We had that occur last Friday. Another one of our new arrivals into the Neepawa Banner, Neepawa Press Office, had an opportunity to go check it out. She took a whole bunch of pictures. Jessica Morton. She found the experience to be intriguing because there were little bits of history that she wasn't aware of that Neepawa has. Those are the types of stories that really need to be shared. And they did a visual sort of representation at each of the grave sites. They had people dressed up in period piece clothing. So they put a lot of time and effort in, and it's commendable that they appreciate the history of our area as they do, and make it come alive in such a spectacular fashion.
That story can be expanded on too, because the cemetery is on the land that was homesteaded by the Graham family, and we've got to get some of this recorded because it's going to get lost. But I was told the Graham family came, and it's well known, they came in 1877, 1878 to Neepawa from Listowel, Ontario. And Mr. Graham came out, Mr. Graham and his wife, senior, came out with 5 of their sons and their families. Mr. Graham was 99 when he arrived here. Yep. He lived till the following spring and was buried on his home farm, or what had become his home farm. And then subsequently, as other members of the family passed away, they were buried there as well. And so their farm is now Neepawa Riverside Cemetery. And it's... I could never figure out why he settled on that piece of land, because it was pretty sandy, pretty rocky. But when you go down to Listowel, Ontario, you see a building like our County Court building there, and with a plaque, and it says a lot of people moved west in the 1870s from Listowel, Ontario, because the land was coming too high priced, land was scarce, and due to flooding. So obviously they sold their land, took their nest egg and moved west with it. And he settled on that site, likely because he was sick and tired of being flooded. Yep. And he wasn't going to get flooded again, ever. And it never has to that, because that spot is on the high side of the river. But anyway, we lots of other stories in the paper this week. And there was the Farmery Fish Fry. There's the Grad Awards are listed there. We got lots of other stuff listed in the paper there that you can see. And hopefully you'll enjoy reading it either in hard copy or on the website. But we've run out of time for today, and so thank you, Owen, for you certainly carried the load on this one today. We're looking forward to having Kate back to work with us next week, not only on the paper but on the program here. So I'm Ken Waddell for the Neepawa Banner, Neepawa Press, and mywestman.ca. Thank you for watching The Story Behind the Stories.